Hey, what's up, guys? Good to have you on the podcast.
Man, thanks for having us. We're excited to be here.
I don't know if I've ever done interviewed three people at a time, so we'll see how this goes. This is new for me, but you guys are seasoned professionals, so I'm sure it'll be all right.
Yeah, we got more chemistry than Bill Nye the Science Guy, so we're good. We're good. We'll adjust.
How do you guys keep from tripping over each other? Because I listen to your podcast, I'm like, man, they're pretty in sync here. Like they don't really trip over or talk over each other too often. That's impressive, actually.
Well, I appreciate it. I a lot of it. I mean, me and my brother's right here to my right.
Allegedly.
So, allegedly.
Right. That is one of your favorite words.
Yeah, we haven't checked the Carfax yet, but no, I mean we're able to do it, and then we've known David for so long.
Look,
I think
I'm a close cousin. I'm a close cousin at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
I liken it to a band, honestly. It's just like we met, we started making music, and it grooved, and we got to know each other. And I think that, when you watch like the backstage here at the Daily Wire, like that's a master class in passing the baton from one person to the other in the midst of very different conversations they're having than when we're talking about who's going to win the conference championships. But no, I hit it off. When I met these guys, like right when I met these guys, it was just like brothers. I have two brothers, they're brothers, and it's just, happy to be here.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool also that you get to work with such an incredible team. I've had Ben on, I've had Andrew Clavin on, working on getting Matt on the podcast, and the quality of the content you guys put out is incredible. How did you guys get synced up with the Daily Wire?
Yeah, well, first off, I mean, we're unbelievably fortunate and grateful to be at a place that, number one, has people that works as hard as what the Daily Wire has. And I don't say that lightly. We're obviously sports guys. We grew up playing sports. We're able to play at a decently high level, and we understand the importance of teamwork. And I think that's one of the main reasons why the Daily Wire has been so successful. And they let us say what we want to say, right? There's no leash on, to quote Dana White here recently, on us diving into topics. But I'm going to tell you, Ryan, like the truth is we say what we think. I think that's what's kind of separated us from some other shows, is that you may agree with us on who you think's going to win. You may disagree with us on certain things, but we're able to say what we think, and it comes off as genuine. And when you're able to say what you think, you can argue points pretty far, instead of, some of the other stuff you hear where it's rehearsed and, well, I'll take this side and you take that side because it'll be more fun. We genuinely say what we believe. But no, it's an incredible place to work, and we can give the origin story.
Tell him about when we were at the College Football Hall of Fame and Ben Shapiro called.
Yeah, so, man, it's crazy. I coached college football for almost a decade. My brother coached it for almost half a decade. And when COVID hit, I was coaching up in Montana, and they sent the players back and the coaches back because nobody knew what was going on. Our head coach was like, we're going to bring you back at some point. We just don't know. It was touch and go. And so I went and bought a $50 mic and just started kind of talking college football, stuff like that. And I didn't know what was good. I had no plan for it to go forward. I was going back to coaching, and it kind of blew up, and I got reached out to by a couple investors who were pretty high up there, and they wanted to move me to Atlanta and put it on video. So that's when I met David Cohn, who was actually owned the video production company that I was going on video. We hit it off. Long story short, he hops on, my brother hops on the show. We sign a deal with The Volume and Colin Cowherd, and we're doing it out of the College Football Hall of Fame. We're in the middle of renegotiating a deal with Colin Cowherd and The Volume, because we had a ton of success early, and we're really excited. And then I get a DM on Twitter from Ben Shapiro, and then I get a call from Ben Shapiro, and he was like, look, man, we're interested in having a sports show. We'd love to talk to you guys. And it just blossomed from there, man. I'm just waiting to wake up from a coma,
I know,
to be honest with you. Like, I really think I'm in a coma right now. Like, and I'm going to wake up eventually, and they're going to be like, yeah, man, you were recruiting. I hit you. Worth it.
For sure. And as somebody, look, for full transparency, like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson had a huge impact on me and sort of the transformation that I made throughout my 20s and stuff. So getting a call from them and being able to join this just elite cast of intellectuals and great people already felt like a dream. But then given the fact that I played football at Michigan and they just won the national championship, now I'm 100% convinced it's a dream. And at this point, I'm fine just staying in it. Like, let's don't wake up.
Oh, no, I'll Truman Show this
milk this thing for all it's worth.
Yeah.
Not time to wake up anytime soon.
Well, I was going to ask if it ever feels like, you're talking about waking up from the dream, or feeling like, man, somebody's going to find out who we really are and can us here pretty quickly. But it sounds like you guys are honest about who you are. And I think, you talked about Dana White, or you see somebody like Jim Harbaugh, who, is at the March for Life, and it's sad that these types of things, the way people really believe, especially in the sports arena, feel like they can't actually share what's on their mind because of losing careers, losing job opportunities, losing promotions, and the risk that comes with just being honest about what you think and feel.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that's why some networks you see right now are struggling and are having to make some moves to try and make up for the fact that, look, let's be honest, they censor what the talent says and what the talent can't say. I've had more guys, and we've had more guys reach out to us on certain other networks that are like, man, I want to say what you just said, but I would be fired into the sun instantly. And I think, again, whether you agree or disagree, to me, that's beyond the point. It's the human ability to tell when somebody's being genuine in what they think and what they're saying. At least you know where I stand. With Dana White, at least you know where he stands. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, if I'm going to go down, I want to go down, with you knowing I'm meaning what I say. Not that you say crazy stuff or you try and be a shock jock or anything like that. I'm going to tell you what I really think about something. If it's out there, it's out there compared to the mainstream. But the ability, again, that the Daily Wire gives us to do that, I think is one reason why we've seen the results that we've seen. Because deep down, I used to say it about recruiting. You can fake and trick a lot of people, right? But eventually they're going to find out that you're not genuine or you are genuine. And that's the way we've gone about it.
Well, Dana White specifically, I mean, we've become friends with it, wouldn't you guys say? Yeah. I mean, that's a crazy statement to say, too, but we've become friends and close with Dana White through his Power Slap initiative, which they have their next one coming up February 9th, right before the Super Bowl. And, I don't agree with everything Dana White says or all of the actions that he takes. And yet, when I'm around the guy, I'm captivated by his presence. And I think, that's, that shows me the type of leader that he is, the way he runs his business. And his comments this past week about not putting his UFC fighters on a leash and talking about free speech, I think was just a microcosm of that, hey, it's healthy to disagree. Tell me what you think. I'll tell you what I think. And then let's go to the blackjack tables and we're going to be friends. And
yeah. Well, I think authenticity matters, right? Sure. And I think you can smell a fake from a mile away, but we're running to the problem now where people would rather stand on money than stand on what's right. And I think dialogue matters, and we're scared to argue these days. A real authentic argument, and I think that's where we get in trouble. We're so one-sided. We have so many followers and not a lot of leaders in today's society. That's why you see all these corporations, all these major networks just absolutely drowning in losses, and it's not going to get better because they're not leaders. They're going to follow the politicians and whatever the narrative of it is. So when it comes to our show and what we can say, authenticity lasts. That sells the best. You want to know why Joe Rogan's so good? Because Joe Rogan is authentic. He will say what he feels like, whether you believe it or whether you do not believe it. And that is what viewers want. That's what people want to hear. That's what people want to listen to. They don't want to see some guy get up on CNN and tell you not to go outside today because the sun could blow up.
Play a role.
Yeah. Right? That's what we're running into. So I think we're smelling the fakes out. They're starting to come out of the trees a little bit, and the real ones will forever be able to see that.
Yeah. Dissent moves us forward. That's what we say on the show all the time.
Well, and I think, yes, dissent. Did you say dissent moves us forward? Because that was actually going to lead into what I was thinking. Yeah, I agree. I think the more people who stand up and speak their mind, the less cancelable these types of things become. You take Dana White was referring specifically to, I believe, Sean Strickland's comments about the LGBTQ agenda. And, although I don't necessarily agree with the way that, Sean delivered his thoughts on the subject, the fact that he stood up to a reporter and said exactly what he wanted to say, was exactly what was on his mind, and wasn't popular, was actually a pretty redeeming characteristic, if you ask me.
No, Ryan, it is. But to me, the saddest part is we have to celebrate that because we don't see it all the time.
That's true.
We've had so many people in our past die for our ability to sit here and say what we think, whether you agree, whether it's right, or whether it's wrong. I don't know if there's one person in the world that I agree with everything they think. I don't know if there's one person in the world where I disagree with everything that they think. But the fact that we have to celebrate the ability of an individual to say what they actually think, it's borderline scary. And you have to celebrate it because you want more of it. It's kind of a natural human reaction. But we've gotten to a point now where we are so fearful of being ourselves that we'll never reach our potential. And to me, that's the scariest part of the whole ordeal.
And you brought up something there with Sean Strickland specifically. I remember growing up, my father would say, how you say something is as important as what you say. I mean, you could tell someone to go to hell in such a way they'd look forward to the trip, I think was the phrase that my father used.
You've won a trip to hell.
Yeah, That's a guy that would get you excited for the trip. But with Sean Strickland specifically, of course, man, I'm sure he wishes, and a lot of us wish he could have articulated that thought in a very different way, right? But I think that's what Dana is alluding to. And look, when it comes to free speech specifically, you can't just go and say whatever you want. It's not even about being canceled. There have to be some sort of standards, especially when we're talking about, corporations and you're trying to promote a fight and that kind of stuff. But to me, what Sean Strickland said is not where the line is, right? Like the line has to be as far as possible when we're talking about speech, especially when you're trying to push cultural ideas and where that Overton window is and how wide is that window and where exactly is it. So, of course, all of us are trying, especially when we're on live TV every day like we are, trying to articulate thoughts as carefully as possible. And sometimes we make mistakes, but, it's the sentiment behind ideas that's important too.
Well, and one of the things I tell the guys that listen to the podcast and are tuned into what we're doing is you have a lot of these quote unquote nice guys who don't want to rock the boat. They don't want to make anybody feel bad, and they get steamrolled and rolled over. And I tell these guys, hey, look, if you don't want to be a nice guy any longer, you actually have to tiptoe into asshole territory because you don't know what the line is. And until you're willing to be an asshole, you can't find the right appropriate line on how to stand up for yourself, how to have boundaries, how to share what you want, but do it in a respectful way that will elicit results from other people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, and I agree with you, Ryan. That's part of being yourself, though, right? Like me in the real world. Sometimes my dad used to say, if we're quote our dads, somebody's got to wear the hat sometimes. Like to me, when I'm talking about something, it does release different emotions for me in certain aspects because that's me, being myself. If I disagree with Blain or something, or if I disagree with somebody else out there, I'm going to talk about it. And if I have to tiptoe into that territory, I'll tiptoe into that territory. But I'm not going to live in that territory, or I'm not going to just live in the nice guy territory. Again, I think the authenticity, right? It's the Beanie Baby rule, the baseball card rule. The more authentic it is, the more valuable it is. And that's the way that we kind of approach what we do. But I'm with you, man. And I think that goes into the full experience. I don't want you, and I know these guys will agree with me, to tune into Crain Company because you're like, oh, it's just going to be nothing but rainbows and smiles. Or I'm going to tune into Crain Company because these three guys are going to yell at each other the whole time like we see on different shows. I want you to tune in and be like, hey, I don't know what I'm going to get today as far as emotional, right? Is it going to be funnier? Is there going to be someone going to get angry? Are we going to get into a heated debate? But I know I'm going to get something that's real. And at the end of the day, to quote one of my favorite artists, I don't know if many of your audience agrees, Drake on the Pound Cake song.
No, not many people agree.
Yeah, only real music's going to last. All the other stuff is here today and it's gone tomorrow.
Yeah, it took me a little while to realize in life, like being a good man and being a nice man are two different things, right?
Yeah.
Like that, those are not the same thing. Sometimes being a good man and doing what's right in terms of taking on the responsibilities of a man means that you're not being nice, right? It's having the ability to not only get in a fight, but win a fight, whether that be figuratively or literally, but to win that fight. And sometimes that's what's called upon for a man to reach his full potential and to take on the responsibilities of life.
Mm-hmm. One of my friends, his name's Jack Donovan, he makes this distinction. He says there's a difference between being a good man and being good at being a man. And I love that distinction.
I do like that. Oh, I may have to borrow that one.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Hey,
sure. Yeah,
I want to pivot real quick because you guys mentioned something I take a little bit of issue with. So I'm really curious from your commentary, your professional and expert opinion in the world of sports, power slap. Let's talk about that a little bit because I love UFC. I love the fights. I train a little jujitsu, not very much, but I love that. But then I see the power slap stuff and I just can't get behind it as a sport, as a valuable thing to do. Tell me your guys' thoughts on this.
Well, look, I feel like if you want to grab the belt,
I'm getting the belt,
David. The way I look at it is like this. Both are brutal, right? And having been there in person, I can tell you, like, power slap, it's visceral. Like, watching it on TV is one thing. Being there and seeing it and hearing it and basically feeling it almost from the front row
I can't imagine.
is a totally different thing. But to me, I think, it's as crazy as some people might think it is. I think it's a good pathway for some of these guys who are trying to get a career. Maybe it's in MMA, maybe it's in something else, to try and get their foot in the door. A lot of them, that's what they're doing. So to me, it's you can get knocked out in both, right? Which one would I rather do? I don't know. I think both of them can end up being pretty brutal. But at the end of the day, I think it's providing opportunities for guys who are willing to do it. Right? They're not forcing anybody to. They're not going into different villages and being like, "Hey, you come here, power slap.
Right,
you can sit in a Hunger Games situation." But I think it's getting a foot in the door for some of these guys. And honestly, after having met them and hung out with some of them, man, they're great guys.
Yeah.
They're really cool people.
I would encourage you, check out their stories. They also have the television show behind the scenes that's going on where you can see them as they prepare for their bouts and stuff. But yeah, hear their stories and get to know them because they're trying to not only make it in MMA, but they're working a lot of different types of jobs. And the way I see it is it's just another rite of passage, right? It's a physical rite of passage that has physical consequences and one man standing in front of another. And I'm thinking of this analogy in real time, so it may be flawed. It's almost like going for a 2-point conversion at the end of a football game. If an MMA fight is the full game that you get to experience with special teams and the full field and everything, going for that 2-point conversion is the game distilled down to its essence in football. You line up at the 2, we're going to try and score, you try and stop us. That's how college overtime works. Now, it's kind of how power slap is. Instead of a full fight, I'm going to stand across from you. I'm going to slap you as hard as I can. Hopefully, I get to go first.
Yeah.
Slap me as hard as you can. And when I see these things go multiple rounds, man, I'm telling you, it is wild.
If I win the coin toss,
that's the whole
If I win the coin toss, I'm slapping. If he's not knocked out, I'm leaving.
You're not deferring. You're not deferring.
Yeah, that's what we did when we were
I would
kids.
so much rather do power slap than actually be in an actual.
Well, what's funny is there's a scene in Lady Ballers where we're sitting in the gym and I slap him and run away instantly. That's about what it'd be like.
Yeah,
that's what we did with our brothers and stuff when we were kids. It's like, let's have a slap competition. I'll go first. You slap them, and then you don't let them get a chance. Of course, I think that's where I take issue with, though.
Too, huh?
I think that's where I take issue with is that I can't, for me, wrap my head around letting somebody slap me. That's the difference between power slap and MMA. Yeah, sure, you're in there beating each other up, but I'm trying not to get hit. Like I'm trying to keep you from hurting me while I actively try to hurt you, and that's where I take issue.
Yeah, to me, that's almost more, it's more brave to me.
Yeah.
Here's what I think about, and not to compare a sport to war, but I mean, this is a gladiator sport. It's like, and I've never understood this. Back in the day when they'd be like, all right, you'd have one group standing facing the other group, and they'd be like, all right, put your guns up.
Yeah.
Fire! And you fired, and then you put them down. Then the other side puts their guns up. Like, to me, that takes a lot of guts, man.
I get
that
what
takes
you mean
a lot of
about,
guts.
like being elusive. Trust me, I used to watch every Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight, just wishing somebody would actually connect with this guy, right? Because no one could hit him. But what you're saying, like that phrase of "I couldn't imagine just standing across from someone and letting them slap me." Someone else is saying that about getting in the ring and having a boxing match or having a UFC fight. Right? They're like, I couldn't imagine ever getting involved in something that's brutal. That's that brutal or physical, something like that, or football. A lot of people don't want to engage in the physicality that football requires. So it's just a different flavor, and I see it as just another rite of passage, especially for some of these guys who are trying to work their way up and be professional fighters.
Well, I think it's cool that he likes one and not the other, though. I think that's cool because, I mean, obviously you're really looking at it from, your own perspective. I mean, I think that's interesting.
Well, I mean, knee jerk, I was like, oh, these guys are morons. Like they're just there slapping each other. But if I take like a real look at it, no, there's technique. There's things they're doing. They're training. There's technique to it. There's a lot more to it than just, hey, what's on the surface, which is what everybody sees. And initially what I saw too, but yeah, I was just curious about that. I kind of liken it to, I played a little bit of sports in high school, never college or professional level, but in high school. And basketball was a sport that I just struggled in. And one of the biggest things for me was that you actually are encouraged to let another player run over you. That just did not compute in my mind. And so they put me in there to beat people up. I'd foul out just about every game. And I lasted through my sophomore year and then got cut. But that was just something I could not, it didn't click for me.
I just feel like you'd be the perfect goon in hockey, though. Like, the guy they sent out there, and they're like, please, like this one Russian guy's giving us problems. Will you please take him
out?
All sports.
Take him out.
It's not only hockey. Like, look, you've sent a guy on a football field a couple of times, whether that be a freshman or a sophomore, like, hey, man, I need you to go take care of this guy.
Yeah,
Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore,
that's
man.
Exactly
right. That's right.
He'd be the enforcer, the Bash Bros, Mighty Ducks.
Oh my, that's a
Mighty Ducks. That's right. Those are the guys I resonate with for sure.
Oh man, I'm a big Gordon Bombay guy.
Who isn't?
I'm big.
Who isn't?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. Wow, what a great movie.
Well, did you guys think what you're doing now would ever lead you to be, Hollywood? Well, I shouldn't say Hollywood. It's not really fair, but at least movie stars. We'll say movie stars.
Man,
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
I can't tell you how, though.
No, I'll tell you what's funny, though. I told my wife, now, she was my girlfriend then.
Not your previous wife.
Not your previous wife.
Don't trick people. I've been married one time so far. But when I was when we were doing the J-Boy show, I was like, I just got a feeling like I'm going to get a chance to act at some point. And she used to be like, no. She's like, you're doing your sports thing. Stick with that, whatever. So, of course, when we found out we were doing the movie, after I had to tell her we had to cut our honeymoon in half, once we got through that.
That was
I remember God.
For the movie you did?
You got through it.
I'll tell you. I'll get into that. But I'll say this. I always wanted to do it. It's something I felt like I always could do. But I never thought you'd be given the opportunity, right? Because I feel like you got to go in there and earn your dues and stuff like that in the acting world and all that crazy stuff to have a chance to not just be in a movie, but be one of the main focal points of the movie. And the idea was kicked around. We had talked about it with Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring. Like at first, we were going to try and see if Blain could, my brother, who's 6'4", could act, and Cone's 6'7". We actually, we actually got a pretty decent sized basketball team. But if he could make the WNBA, like legitimately, like because if guys can be girls and girls can be guys, then my brother should be able to play in the WNBA and average a triple-double.
ISO.
Yeah, ISO the whole time. 5 out, ISO. But they wouldn't let him. Like they talk this big game, and then when you try, they don't let you. So Ben and Jeremy came up with the idea for the movie. We talked about it. They brought us in. We thought it was a great idea. They got the script out so quick. They brought us in, handed us the script. They said, an hour and a half to read it. Tell us what you think and bring it back because they didn't want the script out. Read it. It was incredibly well written. We were laughing, like genuinely laughing. And man, it was an incredible opportunity and something that obviously turned out really well. And we want to do it again.
And look, we're going to get a shot as crazy as the world keeps going. Maybe the golf Lady Ballers.
I'm telling you, Lady Ballers 2. She's got drive.
Man, the craziest part for me is for the last 10 years when I met you guys, I was working in video and film production, right? I was on the periphery of this. I was directing actors for over a decade. Then to be on the other side of it and be in a movie and acting and to get directed, it was a crazy experience. And I'm so proud of this group, man, because we went in, we knew there would be no expectations, right? For us to actually deliver some sort of performance that's not only good, but maybe even funny. And then when we went in there and we knew what we put in the can, we knew the scenes we shot, but we had to keep it a secret for the 8 months while they're in post-production.
I bet that's tough.
I said, guys, I think we made something really special. Obviously, we don't have final cut. We're not going to be in charge of the edit, but I know what we shot. I think it's really solid. Let's just see what happens. Then #1 movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
it happened.
2 weeks.
Couldn't believe that.
The thing with me, I've always wanted to act, and 2, I've always thought I was Batman.
So you want to be Batman?
This movie is a great stepping stone for me to be Batman in the next 2 years.
And I'll be the Joker.
And I'm going to be Catwoman. I already played a girl. So.
Yeah.
Dave's going to be Catwoman, look just like Halle Berry, and
I'm the Joker.
The Joker.
Yeah.
That's debatable about the Halle Berry comment, but yeah, we'll go with it for sure.
Well, better than I look like Elon Musk.
Dave's a little darker than her.
Yeah, a little bit.
I was thinking, golf is certainly an avenue. Tennis, although I'm not sure I'd want to see any of you guys in a skirt on the tennis court. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, I don't. We were very lucky that we didn't have to, our good buddy Tyler Fisher, he was the only one who really had to dress up like a woman outside of Jeremy and
Alex a little
the part, and obviously the main character. But, the funniest part to me, and if you haven't seen the movie, this is something you need to watch as it goes, is that we get more masculine the more games we play in this tournament. Like, it starts off very feminine, like all of a sudden the wigs disappear. Like, I just had to wear a bow, so I feel like I lucked out. Right, and ended up having the bow
was
taken
the
off.
worst. I mean, you look like you're part of the Motley Crue. At least.
Oh yeah. Look, we're gonna get an '80s band together for sure. I'm jamming out. We're gonna go.
I look like an anorexic Corella DeVille.
But it's funny. I was like just telling my dad this when this story had broken about the male golfer who won the female tournament and can now possibly play on the LPGA. I was saying, the world's so crazy. I would gladly not have men hoisting trophies in women's sports and for us to not have starred in a movie. I would make that trade-off. But if the world is going to be so crazy, then, hey, let's at least capitalize and point out the absurdity of it by doing a project like this. And that's what was so fulfilling about it. I mean, our good friend Riley Gaines, I think, would tell you the same thing. She would gladly trade in whatever fame she's received in this new lifestyle she's living to not have this absurdity have happened to her in the first place. But this is the world we live in now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important movie, and I know there's probably people, and you guys have heard this, I'm sure, that think it's just a mockery. It isn't important. It's not relevant in the grand scheme of things. But I think tapping into culturally important things, and that's movies, that's comedy, that's acting, celebrities, even sports. It's easy to take that and dismiss it as unimportant, but these are all fronts that we can fight a good battle on and bring attention to real issues that are important.
Yeah, and to me, when you look at it, and I try and look at everything, at some point from a 30,000-foot view, if you honestly believe that there's no difference between men and women, especially in the sports arena, then you can be talked into believing anything. Like that's an avenue for what's to stop just from having men go in women's bathroom. Where does it end? If you're going to start there and you can convince people that this is actually a real thing, which I think 99.999% of people realize there's a difference between men and
they're
women.
not convinced.
There's nobody I've ever met who's been like, no, dude, like seriously, there's no difference. Like there's no difference at all. But if you can believe that and you can be talked into that, then you can be talked into anything. Then you can believe anything that we know. It's not debatable. It's not an opinion. It is a fact that there's a difference between men and women biologically and anatomically. So if you can sit here and say, oh, it doesn't matter, let men play against women, let women, go in men's sports or whatever, which we don't ever see, then again, what's to stop anyone from saying, well, I'm a man. Well, no, there's no such thing as a man, so I'm going to go into the women's bathroom. Like, where does it end? It never ends. It's just an ever-winding road of stupidity, in my opinion.
Yeah, and look, I agree. I don't think many people are convinced that men and women are different. I think they're going along with the narrative because they're blissfully ignorant, or they're just kind of useful idiots, I think is the term that we often hear.
Yeah.
But the other one is that I think a lot of these people will rank virtues, and they'll look at something like tolerance and acceptance as more virtuous than truth and honesty. And so it's just a reprioritization of their values and their virtues. And they've got it wrong. They've got it backwards.
100%. People don't want to hurt feelings more than they want to, which actually Matt Walsh made this point a couple months ago, which was, hey, he was speaking to the trans community. I care about you more because I'm the one who wants you to live out your full potential. I mean, there's a great quote that says, the greatest, the most honorable thing a man can do is to reach his full potential. And I think you could take that and say the same thing about a woman. But not only that aspect, but also I think people are lying to themselves about just how much our culture and our country has changed over the past 5, 8, 10 years. And that's what gets me thinking, and I chuckle when I hear people talk about the movie Joanna Man. In reference to Lady Ballers. Like when Lady Ballers came out and they said, well, they already made Joanna Man for two reasons. One, just from the surface level of that movie was made 20 years ago. So even if our movie was a direct ripoff, I mean, they're making 3 dozen Marvel movies every single year. The fact we couldn't make a similar movie 20 years later.
Yeah, the Little Mermaid's like a neurodivergent lesbian.
So so is Robert Downey Jr.
That just from a filmmaking standpoint. But then the deeper issue is, no, Joanna Man was made at a time where it went without saying that it's ridiculous for a guy to dress up as a woman and to play basketball.
And he was hiding
That's the point. He's hiding it. This is the humor in it. The same with Mrs. Doubtfire. The same with White Chicks. Is the audience is in on the gag.
It's a
that's
joke.
Always been funny, which is men dressing up as women, but the other characters aren't in on it. With our movie, this is post-absurdity, post-craziness in our country, where these men are hoisting women's trophies. Women are allowing it to happen. And that's the beauty of Lady Ballers is we dominate the field of competition in wigs.
We live in the dumbest, smartest time ever. Elon Musk is landing rockets upside down on platforms in the Indian Ocean, yet some people believe there's no difference between men and women. Could you believe if we teleported somebody from like 1820 to our time right now and we're like, hey, here's the iPhone? They'd be like, oh my God, we're so smart now. But hey, dudes and chicks are the same. Like can you just imagine, like my head would explode, spontaneously combust. We live in the dumbest, smartest time ever.
Well, I think the reason the movie is so funny is because, as the adage goes, it's funny because it's true. Like if there wasn't an element of truth to it, it wouldn't be funny. You guys did bring up Riley Gaines. I think she's probably one of the most important voices in sports right now, especially as it relates obviously to culture, because you said it. Women need to stand up too. I don't understand why these women, especially when it came to Leah Thomas and the swimming stuff, why they sit and say, hey, you know what? We're out. We're going to go create our own league over here and do our own thing. And we're not going to play this game anymore. I understand like a young lady who spent, 20 years trying to get to that level, trying to get to that point, the opportunity that comes with it. But unless women are willing to stand up and say, we're not doing this, we're not participating in this, you're just not going to have anything change. And they'll say, well, men need to do it. Well, if you want men and women to be the same, then women need to step up as well.
Men are doing it.
Yeah, well,
at the end of the day, that's the problem.
Well, again, I think legitimately only women can stop this.
Yeah,
only they can. 100%. Like we can only do so much as men, and there's a lot of women again that same as men. 99.99% of people agree that there's a difference. There's an advantage that men have over women. When that guy goes out there and plays against women's golfers, he's teeing off from the women's tee, hitting a 5-wood from like 265 out. Meanwhile, every other lady out there takes her 3 shots to get there. I mean, we all know the advantage that men have over women, but unless women, and we've seen it you've seen it at the high school level, some boycotts, right? And a lot of times it works, but until it's a uniform, all right, we are done with this. We are not going to tolerate this anymore, which is not going to happen because you have these clowns out here like Megan Rapinoe who really don't care about women's sports. They just care about themselves. They think their injury proves that God isn't real. That's a story for another day. And again, if you put her brain in a dog, it'd walk backwards. But unless all women come together, this is not going to stop. If the LPGA, the women on the LPGA don't come together and say, we just won't play, right? And here's what I love. Here's the funniest argument, Ryan. Oh, well, let's make a trans division. Let's make a trans division for athletes. That's going to turn into men's.
That's a men's division, of course.
It's a men's division. That's what it's going to turn into. So women have to stop it. And unless they don't, we can sit here and scream and bring our pitchforks and torches and run up to the city council. It's not going to change. They've got to stop it.
I agree completely. Women have to lead the charge because you're only seeing this dominance in sports from one side of the transition, right? And Riley Gaines is such a great leader and such a great voice for these young ladies. And I love when she said, sometimes I have to pinch myself that I have 1 million social media followers just for saying the statement, men and women are different.
Yeah.
She's testifying before Congress to tell them the difference and why men shouldn't be entering women's locker rooms.
Not only women, but the most athletic, famous women need to stand up. The Serena Williams, the voice that young girls go to, who they watch play in golf.
Caitlin Clark
in women's basketball, WNBA. There's certain females out there who would stand up and say something that could make a difference, but they won't do it because of what you brought up earlier in the show. They're too scared to lose sponsorships. They're too scared to lose status in life, so that's why they sit behind a wool cover and not stand.
I think you see Martina Navratilova stands up and always addresses this issue, and when you see the vitriol that she receives and the pushback, it shows you why more females who are in their prime won't speak up.
Yeah. Look at J.K. Rowling.
I was just going to say her name. Yep.
Destroyed her. I mean, she came up with Harry Potter, man.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's unfortunate. It is the reality. But again, and I think we led off the conversation with this, is that the more that people are willing to dissent, the less it becomes a dissent. Then it's no longer a dissent anymore. And everybody's like, yeah, this is actually true. And this is where we need to go.
Yeah. No, again, and this is why, what I said earlier, dissent does move us forward and it shines a light on everything, right? So at least, at worst, you can have a good perspective or an opinion on it. Wherever you land, at least when we're arguing or we're debating or we're doing something, you are getting every area, the whole spectrum, the whole window, as you referred to it earlier, of the argument. Because without that, if it's going to be narrow-sided, if it's like, looking at a kaleidoscope, right, you're never going to get anywhere. So again, dissent is so important because I think at the end, at least, at worst, as I mentioned, you can get a valuable opinion or find out what you think or what you really believe about something because you've gotten different perspectives.
Let me shift gears a little bit. I'm curious what you guys think with what you do on a daily basis, where all sports in general, come into play with the cultural conversations that we're having. Because I think a lot of the times it's easy to dismiss sports as people playing a game. I don't watch, admittedly, a whole lot of sports myself, but I realize the relevancy of it. I realize a lot of it is a metaphor for life. I love sports for young men, but I'm curious from your guys' take, is sports important in the cultural conversation, and do these things move us forward, or is it purely just entertainment?
No, I think it's unbelievably important, and for many reasons. One you brought up, I think it's a great teacher of life. I mean, I learned a lot of my best life lessons from sports. Sports has given me an opportunity to have success and provide for my wife and hopefully our kids someday. But as far as the cultural aspect of it, where I think sports is most important in the culture is that it needs to be a haven that is not polluted by the divisiveness that we see in every other area of culture, right? I feel like sports is a haven where if I go to a game, I don't want it to be pride night. I don't want it to be hetero night. I don't want it to be I sit by the stove and rub a balloon night. I want to go to the park to watch a game. We can have bark at the park. That's great. We can have the Sisterhood of the Poor right out there raising money for charity, but I don't want the Sisterhood of Indulgence or whatever that was that the Dodgers did.
Like the Dodgers,
I feel like some people have tried to hijack sports, and we see this on the Four-Letter Network, on all this, to put politics into people, to use it as a vehicle to drive their political agenda home. When in reality, sports should be one of the biggest havens we have. When I go to a game and I'm sitting down and my team scores and I look to the person next to me and they're wearing the same colors that I have on because they're supporting the team, I'm not going to ask them what they think about immigration or abortion. I'm going to high five them. We just scored a touchdown. Please, God, can we get a stop on defense? Like that's where I think sports should unite us. Sports should not divide us more than I love this team and you love that team. So I don't think it needs to be a cultural spear, right? Unless we're talking about men and women's sports, which is just ridiculous. It's not even political to me. Like it's not political to turn my blinker on when I'm on the interstate. It's just safety. I feel like that should be one of the places we can go where you say, hey, listen, I know you want to vote for Trump. I know you want to vote for Biden, or you hate this group of people, or you hate that group of people. But hey, let's go watch the Ravens game, man. Let's go watch the Ravens and the Chiefs. We're Americans at the end of the day. Sports is something that we do best. I just wish it would be more of a haven for people to come together and not hijacked, especially by the left, in my opinion, to be able to force a political agenda home.
Well, not only is sports important, not only is it more than just entertainment, but the origins of sports is one of the most important pillars in our society. I mean, think about it. It was the respite for young men when they weren't at war, to stay fit, to stay ready during war times. Now, luckily, we don't have to deal with that in the same capacity that some of our ancestors did, having to always stay at the ready. And so sports is obviously a little bit different.
I don't know. We'll see.
You see guys getting drunk at the top shelf cheering at the Bills games. I understand that. But for our young men especially, young people, but especially young men, and for these sports like football and hockey and sports that have physical consequences when you make a mistake, I mean, that right there can provide a wealth of life lessons that are exponential returns, even as a 9, 10, 11-year-old. Now, we're going to do a segment on our show this week to talk about the California lawmakers trying to ban tackle football for 10 and 11-year-olds out there in the Golden State. We're going to be talking about that. So make sure you tune into Crain Company this week. But when I think about the first time I played tackle football at 11 years old, and I think about I still remember Simon Strickland coming off the edge, someone who's bigger than me and weighed more than me, and to understand like the biggest guy on the field can hurt you at 11 years old if you don't do your job and your teammate doesn't do their job. I mean, that right there provided a pillar and a foundation for everything that I was able to accomplish in life, despite not making it to the NFL, despite not doing anything currently today that requires me to be, physical or to be a bodybuilding champion or something like that. But just the idea, knowing what I'm capable of when someone could hurt me physically if I make a mistake.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I just don't think I don't think a football cares what color you are, right? I don't think baseball cares what religion or what you believe in. I think one thing about sports is it brings guys together from so many different backgrounds, so many different places, and the friendships and the family that you go through, and kind of what you were saying earlier, David. Once you get on the field, whether that's a baseball diamond, you get on the football field, and you get hit or something like this, there's no one you can go cry to. There's no one you can go run to. You can't go run to mommy. It teaches you life lessons that you're going to have to get back up in life. And we see that in society today. We have someone who one thing goes wrong and they're complaining, getting on social media, getting on this, getting on Twitter. But back in the day, man, it's either shit or get off the pot, right? And that's what you learn in a young lesson. And that carries you through life, man. It gets you to where you want to be in life.
Well, I had a coach one time tell me, and I think this is the best way to put it. because we were doing condition. It was in the summer. It was hot. We were running 110s. And he was like, listen, he's like, we're going to run 3 more. All right. I know you guys are absolutely worn out, but we're going to run 3 more. And I'm not doing this to punish you. I'm not doing this because I like to see you suffer. At some point, for most of you guys, pretty much all of you, you are going to have a wife, children, a mortgage payment, an electric bill, a car payment, and that alarm is going to ring at 6:30 in the morning, and you're going to have to get your ass up and go to work. And that's what you're going to do, because that's what you learned here. When it's hard, when it's tough, when it's not handed to you, you have a responsibility to yourself, to your teammates, and your family to go get the job done. And I think that's something that we are lacking in society today. The responsibility, not just of men, but of everybody, that when that alarm clock rings at 6:30 in the morning, I'm getting up and going to work, and I'm going to give it my best shot, because it's what I do for what I have and who I'm responsible for. And I think that's what sports teaches you.
And that's why our show is important on a daily basis, for those reasons. Yes, it becomes easier and more clickable whenever there's something in the public news about men being in women's sports, or about a star athlete not standing for the national anthem, and we can hammer that. And that's an intersection that perfectly intersects with the Daily Wire and sort of the missional statement of our company. But even when those incidents don't happen, for all of the reasons that you just heard, the importance of sports, that's why our show is important on a daily basis. Now, we spend more time these days talking about sports than we do playing them, but it's important for young men in our society to understand why sports writ large is still an important pillar in our society.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's all well said. I definitely agree with the even just with the racism, you know, I think sports arguably has probably done more to end racism than just about any other outlet out there.
And Jackie Robinson.
Exactly. You know, there was it needed to break through. It needed to happen. But, you know, you look at any young man's, you know, wall and the posters that he has, a white kid's going to have a black athlete's poster on his wall. A black kid's going to have a white athlete's poster on his wall. Like, I'm not worried about whether or not you're black or white or whatever. Same thing with the military. I don't need to know if you're black. I need to know how well you can shoot, because I need to be able to stand right beside you and take care of the enemy. And I think this is what we ought to be focusing on, not immutable characteristics that none of us can control.
For sure. And again, that's one of the biggest problems we have. I mean, you're punished or you're glorified for things that nobody has any control over, and it's not about merit. And I think people make a mistake. And honestly, I think a lot of white people make this mistake, is they say, and I heard Nikki Haley say this the other day, well, I had black friends growing up. Like that to me is one of the worst ways to put it. Like when I'm meeting somebody, the first thing I don't look at is say, oh, it's a black person, I'm going to make them my friend so people don't think I'm racist. I have friends. I have friends that just happen to be white. I have friends that just happen to be black. I have friends that just happen to be Hispanic. Hell, I have friends that just happen to be Alabama fans, right? But they're friends with me too. So at the end of the day, I think going about it in, oh, I have this quota of Hispanic friends, or see, I'm not racist. To me, you're looking at color to start with. Like, what, you're compartmentalizing your friends by the color of their skin? No, I have friends. I have teammates. I don't have black teammates. I don't have white teammates. I have teammates. It just, at some point, that's the worst way to go about it. And it's a trap that I think a lot of people fall into.
Well, it's also, but you got to be careful though, because now it's also racist if you don't see color. So, you know, you're playing both sides of the fence on this one. You got to be careful with that.
The head coach of the Patriots.
Yeah, here's how you work around it. You say friends of blackness. You put their personhood first, right? Not black men, friends of blackness. So look, I'm here to help you guys out. You can lean on me, and I'll charge a small consulting fee of $10,000 a pop.
Look, I don't care if you're white.
I'm not going to say that ever. So just be aware of that.
Can you come down
you still owe me money, so.
Yeah, catch the ball.
Yeah, can you come down from safety and make a tackle?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Exactly.
That's exactly right.
I think there's another important aspect here, and you guys hit on it too, is making sure that we have an outlet for communities of fatherless young men. I hear from guys every single day who are like, hey, you know, how can I give back? How can I contribute? Go down to your community center and tell them you're willing to coach. Like, those community centers need so much help. They don't, a lot of the times that you'd be surprised, you guys may not, because you might be aware of this, how often it's women who are coaching our young boys. And nothing against women being involved and wanting to be involved, but we need men to coach them. And they're just not getting enough men to come in to contribute, to help, and to help lead these young men in the absence of having a father. I didn't have a permanent father figure around a whole lot when I was young. But I had coaches. I got one. I just messaged him. He was my head football coach in high school. 23 years later, him and I are still friends. We're still talking. This was such an integral part of my childhood, and one that, you know, I knew. His name's Matt Labrum. I knew he cared about us. He loved us. Man, he was hard as hell on us. He could give you a look and not say anything, and you knew you were in deep shit. But we knew he always cared about us.
Yeah, we used to call that, when my dad would make that food, we called it Iron Face. My dad just so happened to play like 5 years in the NFL. He's 6'2", 240-pound middle linebacker. So, you know, when he made that face, you knew it was time. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's exactly right. But here's what I'll say. You need both, right? You need that strong male presence. You need that female presence as well to give you kind of the yin and yang a little bit of it. And I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of cowards out there, man. There's a lot of guys out there that just, you know, hit and run, honestly, and never hang around. And to me, that's one of the most despicable acts, and it's the biggest problem I think we have in this country. Is father absence in the home to not help complete the nuclear family, and not even just from a sports standpoint, just from a life standpoint. But the closest you can get involved for some guys is to go down and volunteer at the rec to be a coach, to be able to maybe be that male presence in that young man's life that he can look back to and say, well, I used to be able to get away with this, but you know, Coach Crain, if I do this, he's going to get on me. Maybe I can't play in my basketball game this Thursday. There's consequences for it. And you kind of lay that foundation. But, yeah, it's a great way to give back. And even at the college level, you know, being able to recruit guys. There's a story. There's a kid we signed when I was coaching out of New Orleans in the 9th Ward who literally went down there on our official visit to his official visit, came up. Then we went down to his house, had dirt floors, no father. Mom was addicted to drugs, wasn't even there. He had 4 younger brothers and sisters. He was the oldest, didn't play football his junior year because he'd have to come home and take care of his brother and sister. Goes and plays his senior year, ends up getting recruited, comes out of nothing, is a 3-year all-conference player in the Sun Belt, and now he's the vice president of a concrete company in New Orleans and is making 6 figures and has totally changed the trajectory of his family because he got that opportunity. Right? Because he took that chance, and that's what sports gave him, and that's what the coaches and the men who were able to mold him at that high school and then in college gave him that opportunity, or Lord knows what he'd be doing. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%.
That's a great example that men constantly should work on improving themselves, right? One of Jordan Peterson's initial 12 rules is treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. Because if you get your own life in order, everyone else around the community or the younger siblings in your family are looking to you. So sometimes when I think about myself and my situation, how can I best help the world? Maybe it's as simple as making sure that I've gotten my own life together. And I have one son right now. I'm about to have 2 daughters, but for sure with my one son, to raise him in such a way that he becomes a man and that he is a responsible member of society. Maybe that single act is the best thing that I can do for the entire world. If everyone else follows suit, what a planet it would be.
For sure.
Well, I mean, one of the things I tell the guys is, and this is met with sometimes some criticism and can at times be controversial, is you need to get as wealthy as you possibly can be. You need to get out of debt. You need to make as much money as you possibly can in a virtuous way. Because when you have money, you're able to go coach the teams. You're able to donate to charity. My oldest son, this community is starting a lacrosse program, and they're just getting geared up. They're trying to get gear and equipment for their kids. I'm in a position where I can donate. I can't donate a bunch of time, but I can donate some money to make sure these kids have the equipment they need. But that's not going to happen if you aren't building wealth. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. Fix yourself. It gives the opportunity to fix the environment around you.
Well, I used to do something with my DB room. Whenever we'd have guys come in, younger guys, the older guys already knew and they had been in the culture. The first thing I used to tell them is, every day when you wake up, the first thing you're going to do is make your bed. That's what you're going to do. Yeah. That's the first thing you're going to do. And I'd go first 3 weeks and check and see when they got up, where they went to class, where they're coming to meetings, was that bed made? Because it's a very good starting point on getting yourself organized and being responsible for something. And it's amazing. You would see guys who maybe came from backgrounds where they weren't asked to be super responsible. Maybe it's something they're not used to. It's amazing what a little act like that can do to move you forward. And when you talk about accumulating wealth, I agree with you 100%. It's a lot easier to change things when I'm able to help you out and give you opportunities. Well, to get opportunities, you need money. We live in the real world. It's 2024. You need money to do things. And like you said, you do it in a virtuous way. But even on top of that, I want to acquire wealth because I want my kids to have it better than I had it. You don't want to spoil them, obviously. There's ways that you teach. But I want to accumulate wealth because I want to be able to give my wife, my son, my daughter, my dogs, the other members of my family, I want to leave it better than I found it. And I think that's something where, me and you are wholeheartedly 100% in agreement, because then there's the offshoot of the charity, of the being able to coach, of, hey, we can finally get the lacrosse gear so these guys can go out and compete. And even if it changes one person, even if it helps one person, it's totally worth it.
Man, I love hearing you guys bring up the importance of money. It reminds me of something that I read one time that said, go out in life and make $1 million, not for the money, but for what it will make of you to achieve that. Yeah. I mean, think about it. If you're able to go make $1 million, that's a lot of money. You're clearly capable in many respects. I mean, like you said, it should go without saying that you're getting that money in a morally right way and in a responsible way, or else it circumvents the point that I'm trying to make anyway. But if you're able to scale a business or to have a skill set that warrants someone giving you $1 million over time, then clearly you've developed something that is worth offering the world.
Well, I think all of you are right, and I think making a bunch of money can bring a lot of change, but I do think just the littlest things, even if you don't make a lot of money, being there for those kids is just what matters most. I feel like a lot of kids just have nobody there to look to ask questions, just to figure things out. And once you're alone, once you hit that depression by yourself, man, that room starts to squeeze, and it starts to squeeze pretty quick. So the littlest thing, and I love coaching, it's one of probably the favorite thing I do in life, just being there for a kid and just helping him on his journey to what he's going to be. But a lot of these kids don't have that. So even if you don't make a lot of money, man, and even, you work at McDonald's, if you have a chance to go coach some kid at a gym, at a rec center, go do it, because I promise you, he don't care where you work at. He just cares that you're there.
One of the funny things I hear is a lot of guys that say, like, I'll ask for an assistant coach, and, from the parents, the kids that are involved, and they're like, I don't have any experience. I'm like, bro, they're 9. Can you hold that bag?
Be there.
Like, that's all I need you to do.
Be there, dude.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to be Phil Jackson, dude.
Right.
I need you to be there, bring some Capri Suns, and make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
That's right. That's right. Well, guys, what's next on the docket for you, specifically for Daily Wire? Obviously, the thing, and I talk with a lot of you guys about this with the Daily Wire, is I love that you're leading the cultural charge, from entertainment to sports to political commentary to culture commentary. Now there's Bent Key, which is kids entertainment. So what's next? What do you guys got going on?
Well, I mean, there's so many things that the Daily Wire is doing right now to help fight those culture wars and try and restore some balance to the forces. As I say, you brought up the Children's Network. We have our sports show that continues to grow and get the word out there in popularity. Obviously, you look at what's coming out with Snow White coming down the pipe this year, Pendragon, which they just got done. And I'm sure we will have something cooking up outside of obviously just the sports show that we do. But no, I mean, it's I feel like, and you look at Jeremy's Razors and the chocolates and stuff like that. The coolest thing about this place is it's not necessarily, at least in my opinion, just going out there to do something to do it. It's the opportunity that presents itself. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, what craziness the Daily Wire is going to have to go out here and fix something. They're remaking The Wizard of Oz. I don't know, to be equitable or whatever it is. I don't know, maybe got to make one of those. But with the Daily Wire, I promise you this, going to keep growing, going to keep doing it the right way, and going and fighting on fronts that need to be fought on and stuff that needs to be preserved. The way of life that we were used to growing up and, with sports and things like that, and being able to watch Sports Center 3 times in a row without feeling like you're a terrible person because of what you believe in. So with the Daily Wire, I mean, David, who knows what's next?
That's my moon. That's my favorite part about being with the Daily Wire, is that you can be a Renaissance man here. You can wear multiple hats. I mean, we can come in and talk about sports and culture or politics. We can act in a movie. We can record new music. Like, that is celebrated here. And as long as it aligns with the missional statement of this company, then it's always fully supported. And so we hope to be doing this for quite a while here. And please check out Crain Company on a daily basis. We got the Super Bowl coming up, conference championships coming up. So a lot of exciting things.
Transfer
portal. Man, hey, man, all that's great. I'm just trying to hit a 3-leg parlay, to be honest.
Yeah, look, that's true.
Awesome, guys. We'll tell everybody how to connect with you. Obviously, Crain Company. Anywhere else you want to direct the guys, and then also the movie Lady Ballers is out as well. So we want to make sure we plug for that.
Definitely. You can find us, just go to dailywire.com. You can find us there. We live stream every morning. We're live from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central, 7:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. I'm not smart enough to know any other time zones other than that. So if you live in another one, I'll let you connect the dots. Obviously, we're on YouTube and Rumble and all that, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. go check out Lady Ballers at Daily Wire Plus. Again, it's had a ton of success. We're really excited about it. Like I said, I want to do it again. But we take live calls. We have a live chat. We call our audience the Booster Club. It's a group of great people that keeps growing by the minute. And yeah, I think if maybe, you know, the best compliment we get, I think, in my opinion, is from people who are like, man, I gave up on sports when it got so political, but you guys brought me back into it because I have a place I can go to where, yeah, we may talk about why men shouldn't be in women's sports, right? But you're going to get the old school sports show that you grew up where when you tune in, it's going to be about sports, right? And I think that's something that's been missing. So yeah, man, check us out. It's a good time. We laugh, we scream. Blain cries, but
a dragon on Fridays.
Yeah, Blain's a dragon on Fridays. We have Flamin' Dragon Fridays.
Well, that's good right now.
It's a good time.
Right on, guys. We'll sync it all up. I appreciate you. Keep up the good work, and we'll keep promoting what you guys are doing because I think it's crucial, not only in sports, but in culture in general. So appreciate the work you're doing.
Hey, you too, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I think we're all in this together trying to push to a result that brings, again, some balance back to the force, and it's unbelievably important. And thanks so much for having us on. And to all your audience out there, man, welcome to it.
All right, stand by, guys, for just a second here. All right, cool. That's a wrap. Excellent call. Good discussion, guys. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Dude, for
Thanks
sure.
For having
Thanks for having
us,
us.
man.
Yeah, I'll get the team all the information so you guys have that, and they'll have access to everything they need. And the studio looks great, by the way, so I dig it.
We love it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
The dojo.
Yeah.
For sure.
Awesome.
Ryan, thanks, man.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Keep it up.
All right,
Thanks,
buddy.
man.
You
See
too.
ya.
See you.